Hey, it's Lily. Let's just listen to a story together. In a quiet little town, one perfect-looking family across the street is about to unravel. From deleted Facebook comments to whispers at backyard barbecues, I started noticing cracks no one else wanted to see. And when the truth finally slipped out during a fundraiser, it wasn't just their secret anymore. The whole neighborhood became the audience. You know how every street has that one house everyone points to when they're giving directions? Turn left at the perfect porch with the hanging ferns. That's the Whitfields. From my living room window, I can clock their front steps like they're a stage and we're all extras. Around here, appearances matter more than the HOA bylaws, and the Whitfields always look like the flyer for a wholesome summer. String lights over the yard, a pellet smoker humming, daughter in a varsity hoodie, golden retriever named Waffles trotting circles. You'd never guess the comments I saw on Facebook before they got scrubbed, or the way she laughed across the driveway last Thursday. Like a dare that echoed. I didn't want to notice. Honest. But in a small town, noticing is how we stay occupied between yard sales and high school games. And if I'm being painfully truthful, noticing gives me a little jolt too. So the first time I caught the public flirting, it was a Tuesday night, storm rolling in like a rum rumor over Lake Marin. I was doom scrolling, thumb heavy from habit, when Marin Tigers Athletics posted a photo dump of the booster car wash. Moms and kids with sudsy sponges, dads hauling hoses. There she was, Madison Whitfield, tiny in her cut-off Tigers tee, sunglasses pushed up like a crown. Beneath the photo, some account I didn't recognize had commented, "Best form in the county, Whitfield. Extra credit for effort, winky face." She replied, "Don't hand out grades you can't justify." 10 minutes later, both comments evaporated like rain on hot asphalt. I blinked and they were gone. Did I imagine it? I clicked refresh until my phone got warm. Nothing. But once you see a crack in the paint, you can't unsee it. The whole wall looks suspect. The next day, mail in hand, I stood too long at my curb pretending to wrestle a circular into the recycling. Madison was unloading groceries from her SUV, apples rolling forward in their bag, rosemary peeking from a paper sack, wine a shade too expensive for a weeknight. She wore that composed smile small-town mother's master, approachable at the mailbox, ruthless on the PTA board. "Hey, Dee," she called. Everyone calls me Dee because Dolores makes me sound like a saint or a road. "You coming to the barbecue Saturday?" "Wouldn't miss it," I said. Our spouses always exchange brisk nods from lawn to lawn. Her husband, Carl, is the IT guy at the water district. Polo shirts in muted blues, a watch that sets itself. Their daughter, Rachel, turned 15 last month. The yard still has a droopy one balloon caught in the hydrangea. They're nice, normal. The type who drop off banana bread when you have the flu and return tools with a bow of twine tied around the handle. It should have ended there, my curiosity, tucked back into the drawer with the warranty manuals. But the storm had cracked something open. Thursday evening sealed it. The air smelled like wet asphalt and honeysuckle, the kind of mix you only get after a summer tantrum of rain. Madison was on her front steps, phone lit at her face. I was at my window with the slats tilted just so. Don't judge. If we wanted privacy, we'd live in the city. She laughed at something texted to her, laughed like the joke had teeth, the dangerous kind. She typed with a speed that told stories. Then headlights swung into her driveway, and her laugh shut off like a faucet. Carl. He got out with a bag of burgers and a sleepy smile. She tucked her phone under her thigh, then stood to kiss him hello in that practiced, married way. It was the speed of that tuck that got me. The jerk of a teenager who knows she's late for curfew. On Saturday, the betta fish in our house stared at me like it too. Expected drama. We brought potato salad to the Whitfields' barbecue, my contribution to the ritual. The yard twinkled with lights. Waffles wore a bandana patterned with tiny steaks. The grill hissed happily. Our neighborhood came like they always do. Barry from the hardware store with his quick handshake. The Malloys sharing a single plate like newlyweds. Pastor Jeff bringing his infamous 7-layer dip and a prayer in his pocket just in case. Music, safe and familiar, tumbled out the open windows. 90s hits we all knew by muscle memory. Madison floated from guest to guest like a well-trained hostess. Everyone got her eyes and a question tailored to their life. "How's your mom, Barry?" "How did the board vote go, June?" "Rachel, did Coach say if they're opening tryouts early?" That last one pinged my ears. Coach. Around here, Coach is as specific as a first name. It means the high school football coach, the one who inherited a fading dynasty and has been gluing it together with boosters and pep talks and Instagram reels. He's newer to town, arrived last year with a fresh contract and a haircut that says, "I wake up early." People like him because he breathes hope. Around here, hope is a sport we keep on the mantle. Coach said conditioning starts the Monday after finals, Rachel said, flipping her hair like victory. He commented on Mom's form at the car wash, she added teasingly, and Madison swatted at her shoulder, too quick and too pink. "Oh, he was just being encouraging," Madison said. "He flirts with everyone." She said it like it was air, nothing to hold. But my stomach did that small elevator drop thrill, the one you get when a gossip hunch finds a foothold. I told myself to behave. I told myself to eat my burger and admire how the sky turned sherbet, how the amber bottles clinked on the recycle table like brave soldiers. But watching Madison felt like watching a movie with the volume too low. You lean in, straining, your brain filling in what you can't hear. Every time her phone lit up, I tracked it without meaning to. Once, she glanced down, bit her lip. Not coy, more like, "I know I shouldn't," and then slid the phone face down with a small, almost theatrical sigh. Pastor Jeff made a toast about community and patience. Carl rested a hand on the small of Madison's back. They looked like a postcard. Husband, wife, teen daughter leaning against the porch railing, a dog pretending to be people. Normal, normal, normal. The string lights hummed. Then someone turned the conversation to the Tigers. "Coach says this is our year," Barry declared, as if the truth could be willed into existence by sheer repetition. Madison smiled with her eyes on the deck floorboard. "Coach says a lot of things," she murmured, too soft for anyone but me to catch. My ears turned into satellite dishes. I took a pull of my drink to hide the strange heat a person feels when they're on the edge of someone else's cliff. On Sunday morning, my phone buzzed while I was folding towels. A Facebook notification. Madison Whitfield commented on Marin Tigers athletics. I opened it like contraband. It was on a post about summer skills camp. "Our house can host a session if needed," Madison wrote. Friendly, innocent. Within 5 minutes, a reply from the Marin Tigers account. "Appreciate you, Madison. DM coming then. Poof." Her comment was edited to say, "We'd love to help." A tiny shift from our house to we. Barely a ripple, but I felt the undertow. Later that afternoon, the thread was tidied. One fewer comment. One vague, "Thanks, everyone." Sometimes the internet leaves fingerprints only if you know where to dust. I started noticing other trivia that suddenly felt like clues. Madison's new manicure. Tiger's orange the first week of July. Her car in the high school lot on a Wednesday morning when there wasn't a PTA thing posted. The way she mentioned practice with the softness people use for secrets. I brought Gatorades to practice. I had to swing by practice to drop off the banner. Carl beamed at the civicness of it all. He joked about booster wives and tax write-offs. He's a good man. That's the worst sort of man to betray because the betrayal has nowhere convenient to land. It bounces and hits everyone. Should I have said something? To whom? Hey, Pastor, your 7-layer dip is missing a layer, and also our neighbor's marriage might be evaporating. We are not a town that indulges in confrontation. We stick to suggestion, the holy insinuation. We spread news like butter, thin, everywhere, inevitable. The dilemma started denning in my chest like a raccoon. Do I keep quiet and let whatever is brewing brew into a boil? Or do I tip the grapevine and watch the whole arbor tremble? A week later, our cul-de-sac hosted the block's yard sale. Card tables sagging with old toys and gilt. Madison set up shop with a curated spread that looked like a targeted ad. Candle holders, linen napkins, an electric milk frother still in its box. The kinds of things you buy when you're building a life you plan to photograph. People bought pieces of their serenity while Waffles sniffed every knee in town. Coach strolled by just after 11. He had that athletic posture that makes even standing still look like a plan. Polarized sunglasses, Tiger's polo, shorts you'd call coaching shorts, if you're kind. If he hadn't been the football coach, he could have been real estate. Madison's voice pitched half an octave brighter when she spotted him. "Coach, fancy seeing you," she said, and her hand went automatically to smooth her hair. He lifted his sunglasses to his cap, and for a second, I watched her watch him. Not the panicked, hormonal stare of teenagers, but something weighted with adult longing. Acknowledgement. Validation. The pure narcotic of being seen. "Needed a lamp for the video room," he said, flashing a smile that made the Malloy twins nudge each other. "Thought I might find one with character." "Oh, we've got character," Madison laughed. Their words were normal. Too normal. Like actors hitting marks and swallowing the real script. She offered him lemonade. He accepted and sipped like a man being filmed. They stood a single step too close. That's all it was. A single step. "Your comment on the camp post came in clutch," he said. "We're trying to streamline sign-ups. You're a wizard with these moms." "Well, I do speak their dialect," she said. "Carpool and caffeine." She was joking, but her cheeks had the sort of color that isn't sun. He touched the edge of her table, like a casual anchor. "Anyway, thanks." The thank you might have landed like a feather if not for the micro pause between words. A feather dipped in oil. He left with a vintage banker's lamp and a mason jar of lemonade to go. After he turned the corner, Madison exhaled like she'd been holding her breath since May. Then Rachel appeared, catching her mother in that post-something air. Teen daughters can smell the weather at home better than any app. "Is Coach coming to dinner?" Rachel teased, sing-song, wielding innocence like a shovel. "Rachel," Madison said lightly, "but light tin cans at a certain frequency. That's not funny." "Dad invited him," Rachel shot back. "He says Coach should meet more of the neighbors." "You two seem like you're already friends." It was the kind of barb a daughter thinks is just a little mischief. but it is also a mirror. Madison's mouth made a small line. She checked a text, thumb hovering, then locked her phone as if it might tell on her. I should have turned away. I should have folded my card table and gone inside to alphabetize my spices or water my basil. But my heart was a bird at a window. Tap, tap, tap. That night, I dreamed our cul-de-sac was a theater in the round, and all of us were both actors and audience, clapping for ourselves, mortified by our own applause. The dinner invitation turned into a grill out the next Friday, a smaller one, just the Malloys, us, and the Whitfields with a friend. We arrived to find Coach already there, sneakers kicked off, one foot hooked casually over his ankle like he belonged. Carl did the proud host thing, flipping burgers with the swagger of a man who's cornered happiness at market price. Coach says Rachel's got an arm, he told us, grinning, as if it were genetic inheritance. Coach, whose first name I learned and promptly forgot because no one uses it, charmed like he'd auditioned for this exact role. He asked about my work, a desk job at the bank branch, and remembered the Malloy's labradoodle's name. He told a story about a flooded locker room with just enough self-deprecation to be endearing. He laughed with his whole chest. He didn't drink much. He made a show of not looking at Madison, which is a way of looking. Madison, for her part, was clearly waging an internal war. Host versus heroine. She offered potato chips with a flourish like she was shuffling cards in a high-stakes game. After dinner, Carl ran inside to grab more ice. Rachel went to the garage to find the ladder lights. The Malloys slipped into a debate about lawn fertilizer by the fence. For a minute, it was just Madison and Coach at the patio table, 10 feet from me. I suddenly became fascinated with the condensation on my glass. The night had that slow hum that makes bugs brave. I saved your comment, by the way, Coach said softly, before it got cleaned. Madison blinked. You saved it? I like things the way they were before everyone decides they should look perfect, he said, smile a whisper. Thanks for the enthusiasm. Madison's laugh turned fragile. I think I might be the problem that needs cleaning, she said, half a joke, half a confession. Maybe you're the reason it's worth being messy. It was a good line, too good, and he knew it. He leaned back, let it float between them like a lantern. That's when Waffles barreled into the scene chasing a moth, and the spell broke. The universe, merciful for once, threw a dog at a bad idea. I lay awake that night, my house quiet except for the fridge's old man groan, and I thought about the Facebook comments, the yard sale step too close, the way small kindnesses can morph into private currencies. I imagined telling June Malloy because June can hold a secret like a sealed jar, until you ask nicely. I imagined telling Pastor Jeff so he could insert truth into his sermon like a vitamin. I imagined doing nothing, watching this slow-burn soap unfold from my front window until it got canceled mid-season or renewed indefinitely. My mind kept reaching for the thought that always saves me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've arranged these puzzle pieces to make the picture I crave when the box actually held a farmhouse and a sunset. Monday was quiet. Tuesday, louder. The high school posted a boomerang on Instagram, 2 stacks of kettlebells clanging. The caption said, "Conditioning crushed. Tigers rise." In the reflection on the weight room glass, if you zoomed, if you tilted, if you wanted to see it, you could swear there was a shadow that looked like Madison's bun. Comments rolled in like confetti. No obvious flirting, clean as a bleached kitchen. And yet, later that night, the Tigers Athletics Facebook page did a late post about volunteer appreciation. Special thanks to the Whitfields for opening their home to the booster committee. It read, Carl's name tagged, plus Madison's. 7 likes, 3 hearts, 1, you guys rock. I read it twice, 3 times. Their home, there. Not incriminating. Innocence has 1,000 alibis. Still, when I scrolled down, I saw a comment that made my scalp prickle. Perfect space for planning and other things. It was up for 90 seconds. I know because I counted. Then it was gone. Deleted by the page, probably. But my eyes had caught it. The author? An account with a tiger paw as the profile pic. An admin or a burner. Who knows which? I put my phone face down and stared at the ceiling. My ceiling stared back like a neutral friend who refuses to pick sides. And then, against my better judgment, I opened Messenger and typed to June. Hypothetically, if you thought something was happening across the street, like something messy, would you tell someone or wait? My thumb hovered on send. I deleted it, typed it again, deleted it. The neighborly code is complicated. We water each other's plants. We bring in packages. We don't torch marriages on a hunch. But what if it wasn't a hunch anymore? What if it was getting risky? Wednesday afternoon, while I was at my kitchen counter with a mug I didn't need, a maroon SUV pulled to the curb across from the Whitfields. It was school colors. It idled. My heart thudded like a panicked rabbit. The driver glanced at his phone, rays of sun glancing off his windshield. He didn't get out. He just waited. Then Madison emerged from her front door, looking like she'd just thrown this on, which means she'd tried 4 other options. She walked to the curb with a stride that was determined to look casual. She leaned into the passenger window, talked, laughed. Her hand lifted in that little flutter women do when they're thinking about touching but won't. After 90 seconds, exactly the length of a pop song chorus, she stepped back, glanced up the street to see if anyone was watching. I was. And then she did something that snapped every rubber band inside me. She reached into the car and squeezed his shoulder. Quick, familiar, not a hug, a press. And he took her hand for a fraction of a second and pressed back. The SUV rolled away like it had rubber gloves on its tires. I stood there, hand on my mug, a witness sworn in by my own nosiness. Tiny gestures, maybe, but in our town, a squeeze like that is the kind of firework you only light if you're ready to claim the burn. I could say I didn't recognize the driver. I could say the sun made it impossible to see. But later that night, after the dishes and the dog and the performative, we should really get to bed, the school posted a photo set from the weight room. Coach in the second image. Model still next to a rack of plates. Same maroon SUV peeking in the background of the third. People tagged him by first name in the comments like he was a celebrity. I didn't need more. If you've ever felt a secret hatch inside a street you've walked 1,000 times, you'll know the exact kind of alive I felt then. It is thrilling. It is terrible. It is an urge to lock your mouth and an urge to fling your front door open and yell. My dilemma stopped being theoretical. This was a bad recipe with the oven already on. The next morning, I found an envelope on my porch. No stamp. My name in Madison's looped handwriting like a braid. Inside, a flyer for the Tigers fundraiser barbecue at the Whitfields this Sunday. We'd love to see you there. M. On the back, in smaller writing, a note. D. If you have a long table we could borrow, could you bring it by Saturday? XO. I stared so hard the ink almost moved. Borrow my table so she could serve pulled pork to the town while keeping her own secret warm under the cloche. Either she had no idea what I'd seen, or she had every idea and thought the most effective cover was community. Maybe both could be true at once. I held the flyer. I looked at the envelope, and then my phone vibrated with a text from June. You up? Got tea. I hadn't sent her anything. She didn't need me to. The grapevine had sprouted on its own. I texted back. Always. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, friend of a friend saw something at the track. Tell you over coffee? My heart skittered. Waffles barked across the street. The sun slid up the white porch rail like a secret being revealed line by line. I picked up my keys, glanced once more at the Whitfields' front door, and stepped outside. Right as the maroon SUV turned onto our block again and slowed at the curb. It didn't stop. It didn't have to. I knew now, and I knew that by Sunday our whole town might too. June's kitchen smells like cinnamon even when she's just boiling water. That morning we sat at her island with 2 mugs and a plate of store-bought scones she'd fluffed in the oven to seem domestic. She lowered her voice like we were in a confessional. Friend of a friend saw Madison jogging the track at dawn. Coach parked by the maintenance shed. Lots of stretching. She lifted her eyebrows so high they nearly joined her hairline. You didn't hear that from me, I said automatically, even as my pulse thrummed in a delighted, shameful way. In our town, you didn't hear that from me, is the starter pistol for a rumor's 5K. June pushed her phone toward me. On the screen, a blurry zoom of 2 silhouettes, one standing too close to the other. The friend sent this. Delete it from your mind after. I stared until the pixels made me cross-eyed. It could have been anyone. It could have been them. The problem with small towns is that our imaginations are better cameras than our phones, and sometimes they develop what isn't there. You think Carl knows? I asked. Carl doesn't notice he owns 2 identical navy polos, June said. He trusts the world. It's charming and fatal. She took a gulp of coffee. I'm not saying we should do anything. I have a daughter. If Rachel gets whiplash from her parents, I'll be furious on behalf of every girl who thought Saturday felt safe. We sat with that. The cinnamon in the air turned dense, like the moral equivalent of humidity. I stared at the scone, at the sugar granules glittering like the beginning of a lie. By noon, the fundraiser at the Whitfields had a RSVP list long enough to make the PTA group chat wheeze. Bring lawn chairs, Madison posted in the comments. 3 exclamation points and a tiger emoji. Her cheerfulness felt like bubble wrap, joyful and designed to keep fragile things from breaking. I told myself again to stop looking for cracks. Saturday came with that particular summer brightness that magnifies every flaw. I hauled our folding table across the street. Madison met me at the curb, breathless, a clipboard tucked against her ribs. You're a lifesaver, she said, using my name twice like we were co-conspirators. D, seriously? You're an angel? D, can I keep it until Monday? She smelled like sunblock and rosemary, and the small gold pendant she always wore kept flipping against her collarbone as she moved. I'll live, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral, neighborly. She looked past me to June's house, then to the Malloy's yard, scanning for witnesses or support. I couldn't tell. "Coach is bringing the raffle baskets," she said, too casually. "We hit our goal for the scholarship fund." "Isn't that wild?" "Wild," I said. My throat felt like I'd eaten cotton balls. Inside their house, everything was set the way we all set it for company. Candles, but the unscented kind. Throw blankets folded like quiet pets. Bathroom hand towels changed to the nice ones. Rachel ferried napkins to the yard, her ponytail whipping like punctuation. She moved with the brisk competence of a teenager with a list and a time limit. When she passed her mother, their shoulders almost touched. They didn't look at each other. The space between them rang. "Need any help?" I offered. "Always," Madison said. And for the first time she sounded almost humanly exhausted, not the glossy brochure version. She put me on lemonade duty. I filled clear plastic pitchers and tried not to glare at my own reflection in their kitchen window like I was interrogating myself. As I sliced lemons, my phone buzzed. June again. Saw the SUV at the school earlier. And then Pastor Jeff, blast texting a reminder to bring canned sodas for the concession cooler, followed by the school Facebook page dropping a teaser. "See you at the Whitfields tomorrow, Tigers." Under it, a comment already deleted. "Marin's finest home field advantage." The internet kept acting like a stagehand in a comedy, visible when it shouldn't be, helpful in the wrong moments. Sunday morning, the Whitfields' yard looked like a 4th of July catalog. Checked tablecloths, cornhole boards leaned against a white fence, a raffle table bowing under baskets wrapped in cellophane and optimism. Waffles wore a tiger's kerchief big enough for a small sailboat. People arrived with crock pots and opinions. The grill, manned by Carl with the swagger of a reality show contestant, hissed and spit and did its part to perfume the block. Pastor Jeff offered a brief blessing that functioned as a social cue. Eat now. The high school band's brass section, 6 strong and eager, set up near the hydrangeas and blew a confident, slightly off-kilter fight song into the afternoon. Coach arrived during the first plate's second hot dog. He wore a white Tigers cap and a t-shirt that made the word athletics look like a promise. He carried 2 baskets, one filled with restaurant gift cards, the other themed movie night, complete with a throw blanket and a scented candle. People greeted him with that particular friendliness reserved for local celebrities and helpful bartenders. He moved like he knew every eye was on him, which is different from wanting it. It's a muscle. "Put those right here," Madison said, her voice pitched in the register of event planners and first dates. She didn't touch him, not even the basket handles, but her gaze met his for a fraction of a second, the look of co-authors during a reading, checking if the other will take the paragraph. Then she looked away so fast it felt like wind. June elbowed me. "You seeing the same play I'm seeing?" she whispered. "I'm trying to watch the field," I whispered back, which is a thing gossips say when they want to feel like journalists. Rachel ran the raffle ticket table with the aesthetic of a pop-up boutique. She had a clipboard, a square reader, and the cheerfulness of someone who inherited competence. $5 gets you 6 tickets, she chirped at the Malloys. "All funds go to Tigers scholarships." She glanced at Coach like he was a dad friend. She smiled the way kids smile at adults who seem cooler than their own. Nicely, but with caution. Every so often she checked her phone, typing with one thumb. Teenagers live in comment threads the way we live in kitchens. By 3 o'clock, the fundraiser had the density of a fair. The band took a break. Carl did his host lap with a pitcher of water like a bartender in a family movie. I watched Madison refill chips and redirect lawn chairs in a choreography that would have looked normal, except she kept stepping inside to grab something and returning with nothing identifiable, an invisible errand. After the third time, I followed. Not aggressively, just casual, like I needed to use the bathroom and had chosen to do so in a way that coincidentally routes me past the pantry. The Whitfields' hallway has a mirror that makes you look a little better than reality. It's generous like that. When I passed it, I glimpsed my own face, the expression of someone narrating a crime podcast to herself. Voices drifted from the kitchen, low and close. I slowed, then stopped, then looked like I was admiring a framed photo of the Whitfields at a pumpkin patch. October, matching scarves, waffles wearing a tiny costume. "Not here," Madison whispered. "I know," the other voice said, softer. "I know." Silence. 2 breaths. A clink. Maybe a glass against a counter. "You shouldn't have saved the comment," Madison said. The words trembled like a plucked string. "You wrote it," Coach said, gentler than was wise. "It was honest." "Honesty is expensive," she murmured. "Then let me pay for part of it." I stared so hard at the pumpkin photo the edges went white. The floor creaked. An old house betrays you even when it loves you. I moved, fast now, into the bathroom, shut the door, stared at a dish of decorative soaps shaped like seashells. My own cheeks had that heat you get from a secret you didn't earn. When I came out, Madison was at the sink rinsing tongs. Coach was gone, or at least not in that frame. She was pale in a way that makes people comment about hydration. I stepped forward, a reflex, then stepped back, remembering I am not her sister, or her pastor, or her better self. I am her neighbor. I am an audience member with a good seat and a too accurate program. "You good?" I asked, because small towns furnish you with 101 ways to ask if someone is drowning without admitting there's water. She met my eyes. For a heartbeat, the performance fell. I saw a woman who'd been running laps in her mind, looking for an exit that didn't exist. "I'm fine," she said. Then she did something I didn't anticipate. She dried her hands, squared her shoulders, and smiled like she'd decided to survive. "Dee, could you go out front and move the cooler under the tent? I think it's getting too much sun." "Sure," I said, because if I didn't, it would be a different sort of betrayal. Back outside, the band had decided to try Sweet Caroline, which is a civic test more than a song. People sang like they were in on a joke. June handed me a paper plate piled with potato salad I didn't remember requesting. "Your face," she said, "tells me you saw a ghost." "I saw a decision," I said, surprising both of us. Before June could ask for a translation, Rachel hopped on the small wooden patio step with the confidence of a camp counselor. "Okay," she called, clapping to get attention. "Raffle time." I'm going to do it live so people who donated but couldn't make it can watch. She held up her phone. A couple of parents cheered. Teenagers instantly fixed their hair. The small-town machine whirred. Nothing happens unless it's content. She went live on Instagram first, then on Facebook, because this is a multi-generational community. The comments started immediately. Heart eyes, tiger emojis, "Go Rachel," and "We love the Whitfields." She thanked local businesses, thanked her parents, thanked Coach for helping with baskets. The camera panned to him. He lifted a hand, a photo-ready half wave. It would have been cute if my stomach hadn't clenched. Rachel started calling numbers, the mechanical way raffles go, with the dull thrill of possibility. 38170, the Malloys hooted. Barry won a car wash kit. Pastor Jeff won the scented candle and looked equal parts grateful and trapped. Laughter rolled across the lawn. The sky stayed mercilessly blue. During basket 7, Rachel's friend Sam leaned over her shoulder. "Tilt it more," she said. "People want to see the crowd." Rachel obliged, and the camera swung in a slow arc. Neighbors on folding chairs, Carl at the grill, the band's trombone section, June winking at her own reflection in the phone. Then the camera glided, almost lovingly, toward the back porch where Madison stood with Coach at a polite distance, both of them looking, for once, like they'd rehearsed their spacing. And then, because life is only tidy until it isn't, Waffles darted through, chasing a chip someone dropped. Madison startled and reached to steady a tray. Coach instinctively reached too. Their hands collided, then stayed. Not long, not inappropriate by any policy manual, but long enough to register as a connection between two people who see each other in ways they shouldn't. The comments under the live video were immediate. Eyes. Aw. Teamwork. Is that? And then a row of tiger paws and a question mark from an account with no profile pic. "Mom!" Rachel said, laughing, unaware. "You're on camera." Madison jerked back as if the word camera had heat. She smiled big and bright, the smile you use for holiday cards in empty rooms. Coach pivoted. No smile now, just neutral, a muscle clenching in his cheek. "Cute," June muttered. "Too cute." My mouth went dry. I watched Carl. He didn't see it. He was busy rescuing bratwursts. I watched Pastor Jeff. The pastor saw everything and nothing. That's a clergyman's curse. I watched the screen as the comments kept climbing like ivy. Queen Mads. "We see you, Coach." "Ship it." "Delete this later, lol." And then a comment that made my spine bark cold. "Best form in the county, Whitfield." Extra credit for effort, winky face. The exact cadence of the car wash comment. It flashed, then vanished, deleted by either Rachel or the page admin or a divine hand. Who can say? But it had appeared on a live that over 30 people were watching, and the internet does not believe in erasers. Rachel kept going, earnest and focused, drawing a number as if the ground hadn't tilted. Madison moved away from the porch like the planks were charged. Coach took one step toward the side gate, as if recalling a practice he was late for. I could have done something then. I could have accidentally mentioned to Carl that the live had caught a weird angle. I could have texted Rachel a white lie. Bad connection, stop the stream, which in our town counts as a public service. Instead, I did what nosy neighbors do when they've tripped over the threshold between curiosity and complicity. I hesitated. And in the space of my hesitation, the grapevine, all root and reach, did what it always does. Phones pinged. You could hear it like an electronic cicada. People glanced at their screens and then at Madison, then at Coach, then schooled their faces into concern or into nothing at all. June's eyes went wide as saucers. "Group chat," she hissed, thrusting her screen at me. "Look." On the PTA thread, a chorus. "Did you just see? Live still up?" Probably nothing. Someone screen cap. A screenshot arrived, already circled in red like the internet had decided to become a teacher. Rachel's voice wobbled for the first time. Basket 9 goes to..." She blinked hard, the way we all blink when we're trying not to cry in public for reasons we're not ready to admit even to ourselves. Madison took a breath that lifted her shoulders nearly to her ears. Coach's jaw set like a door someone had locked. Carl, finally sensing the social barometric drop, looked up from the grill. He followed everyone else's gaze to the porch, to his wife, to the empty space where Coach had been standing, and then to Rachel, who held the phone like a torch. "Everything okay?" he asked, trying to sound like a host and not a husband. "Yep," Rachel said too fast. "Number 9, that's Pastor Jeff." She thrust the basket toward him as if it might explode. Pastor Jeff stood, that pastoral gravity suddenly tense. He stepped forward and accepted the prize. Movie night. His face performing an expression that couldn't settle between humor and alarm. He put a careful hand on Rachel's shoulder. "You're doing great," he murmured. And even that sounded like triage. Behind us, the high school band, bless their uncooked souls, started up the fight song again, louder this time, like volume could plaster over vibe. It didn't. Nothing could. The live ended, or was ended. The comments stopped. The sound of real life filled the gap, napkins rustling. Weird how loud paper gets in a crisis. The unmistakable squeak of Waffle's toy. A baby somewhere starting to fuss. Someone's lawn chair giving up with a sigh. June breathed. D. Like my name was a plan. I turned toward the kitchen for water I didn't need, for privacy I couldn't have. As I stepped onto the porch, Madison met me at the threshold, her eyes glossy, her smile a weapon against panic. Close up, the gloss looked like a wave she was surfing without a board. "If I asked you for a truly unneighborly favor," she said under her breath, "would you do it?" "What kind?" I asked, before my better angels could lobby. "The kind where you check my Facebook and tell me if a certain comment is still visible anywhere," she said, biting the inside of her cheek so hard a white line appeared. "I can't. I don't want Rachel to." "Tell me what I'm looking for," I said. "My loyalty has always been messy." She swallowed. "You'll know it." I turned my phone like a shield. The Marin Tigers athletics page had already scrubbed the live from public view. The neighborhood group chat was doing a panicked call and response. "Please don't spread this. Too late. Kids are watching. Take it to DMs. Remember grace." Followed by someone pasting a Bible verse that always makes an appearance at times like these, as if God was a moderator. And then, in the comments of a new post, "Thanks to everyone who came." There it was again, for a blink. Perfect space for planning and other things. Deleted before I could even tap the profile. The internet had become a haunted house. I looked up at Madison. "It keeps popping up." Then it's gone. I wanted to say I was sorry, but sorry is for accidents. She closed her eyes like she'd been hit by a soft object that still hurt. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Do you want—" I started, but she was already moving, half speaking to Carl. "Ice needs refilling," stroking Rachel's arm as she passed. "You're doing amazing, babe." And then peeking through the side gate where I could see a sliver of Coach's white cap, and the tension of a man who has realized the audience is no longer friendly. It would have been easy then to let the whole thing slide into the day's long shadow, to pretend we were a town that believes its own myths. But just as Madison reached the gate, Rachel's voice cut across the yard, clearer than the fight song, cracked and brave. "Mom?" Madison turned. The yard turned with her. Rachel stood on the patio step. No phone now. Just her hands clenched around a bundle of raffle tickets like a bouquet. "What's going on?" she asked. And what she meant was not what she said. She looked 13 and 20 in the same second. Madison opened her mouth, closed it. The pendant at her throat trembled, a metronome. "We'll talk later," she said, and the words were airless. "Later when?" Rachel asked, and her voice had the serrated edge of a girl who knows the script and refuses to say the lines. Carl was at her side in 3 steps. "Rach, Dad," Rachel said, eyes not leaving her mother. "Who is he to us?" The quiet after that question was the exact kind you get right before a summer storm. Charged, expectant, familiar if you've lived here long enough to count weather as a personality trait. All around, phones vibrated like crickets that hate silence. Someone coughed. The band conferred in whispers and put their instruments down. From the side gate came the soft scrape of a shoe on concrete. And then Coach, so careful, so coached, stepped into view. And Rachel, who had noticed everything before any of us did, drew in a breath so sharp it might have cut, and said one word that turned our tidy street into an auditorium. "Coach?" The way she said it, "Coach?" wasn't a question. Not really. It was recognition with disbelief stapled on. A daughter's instinct colliding with her father's trust and her mother's careful choreography. The word hung in the yard like smoke, making everyone else cough silently in their heads. Carl's spatula clattered against the grill. He didn't bend to pick it up. He just stared at his daughter, then at Madison, then at the man in the tiger's cap. "Coach?" he echoed, like he'd been handed the wrong script mid-performance. His voice wasn't angry yet, just lost. Coach adjusted his hat in that practiced way. A tell meant for sidelines, not front yards. "I was just dropping something off for the raffle," he said, steady, but his jaw gave him away. "Didn't mean to." "To what?" Rachel shot back. "Didn't mean to be in every picture? Didn't mean to be here all the time?" Her words came out like darts from a machine, faster than she could aim them. "Do you think I don't notice, Mom?" You're always at practice when there's no practice. You laugh at your phone like you're 15. You delete stuff like we don't know how the internet works. Do you think I'm stupid? "Rachel," Madison said, and the name trembled on her tongue, both plea and apology. "Please." "I'm not the one who should be embarrassed," Rachel said, and her voice cracked into something too old for her. "That's you." The crowd wasn't a crowd anymore. It was a tribunal. Every folding chair leaned forward. Every soda can paused halfway to lips. June stood rooted beside me, her hand pressed so tight to her phone I thought the case might snap. Someone muttered, "Lord help them," and Pastor Jeff closed his eyes, maybe to pray, maybe to unsee. Carl finally found his voice. It came low, steady, not yet sharp. "Madison." "What's she talking about?" Madison's hands fluttered, then stilled. Her smile was gone, replaced by something raw, barely contained panic dressed up as resolve. "It's not what you think," she said, which, in our town, is code for, "It is exactly what you think, but if I say it different, maybe we can all keep breathing." Carl turned to Coach, who was standing just close enough to be implicated, just far enough to claim distance. "And you?" Carl asked. Not loud, not theatrical, just the quiet demand of a man who's lived his life in routines and found out the routine had been edited. Coach shifted his weight, as if the ground under him had tilted. He looked like he wanted to run wind sprints until his lungs gave out. Instead, he said, "We've been working on booster stuff." That's all. He forced the words out evenly. But the lie sagged under its own weight. The teenage brass section, God bless their clueless souls, tried to play a few uncertain notes, maybe thinking the show must go on. One of the Malloy twins hissed, "Shut up!" and the horn squeaked into silence. The only sound was Waffles panting like he too had picked up the tension. Rachel's face folded, not into tears but into something worse: disillusion. She dropped the bundle of raffle tickets. They scattered across the grass, a snowfall of numbers no one wanted to claim. She looked at her father, her mother, then back at Coach. "You're pathetic," she whispered. And then she was gone, running up the porch steps, the door slamming like punctuation behind her. Madison flinched. Carl took a single step back, as if the slam had shoved him. Coach stood still, his hands useless at his sides. The yard exhaled in one collective, awkward breath. Even the cicadas seemed to pause. "Folks," Pastor Jeff said finally, clearing his throat into a microphone that didn't exist. "Why don't we all head home? Give the Whitfields some privacy." His tone was calm, pastoral, but his eyes flickered with a sermon he hadn't planned to preach. Chairs scraped, excuses muttered. Gotta get the casserole home. Kids' bedtime. Work tomorrow. The neighbors dispersed like leaves in wind, each carrying a version of the story they'd tell over dinner, each one flavored with their own seasoning of judgment or pity. June tugged at my sleeve. "We're leaving," she whispered, but her eyes screamed. "Tell me everything later." Carl didn't move. He just stared at Madison, as if trying to translate a foreign language written on her face. Madison reached for him once, but he stepped back again, and her hand hung in the air like a broken promise. When the last car pulled away, the yard was a battlefield of paper plates, half-drunk sodas, and the residue of community gone sour. Coach muttered something I couldn't hear, tugged his cap lower, and slipped out the side gate. He didn't look back. Carl finally spoke. "How long?" Madison's lips parted, closed. She shook her head like a swimmer refusing to drown. "It's not. Carl, it's not." "How long?" he repeated, sharper now, the word a blade. Madison swallowed. "A few months. It wasn't supposed to." She stopped, the sentence collapsing under its own honesty. Carl's face didn't twist. It didn't crumble. It just fell still, like stone. "Our daughter saw," he said, his voice heavy, not loud. "That's what you've done. That's who you are now." Madison's tears came then, hot and fast. She pressed her palms to her eyes, but it was useless. The image was etched: a wife crying in the ruins of her own barbecue, a husband frozen at the grill, and a daughter upstairs, learning too early that even wholesome porches hide cracks. I turned away, because this was the line, between being a neighbor and being a voyeur, between curiosity and cruelty. My feet carried me back to my own house, though my heart stayed across the street. That night, my phone lit up like a siren. Screenshots from the live, comments from the PTA thread, a whisper chain that wound through every block of our small town. "Did you see? Poor Carl. Poor Rachel. Madison, of all people. Coach? Figures." By midnight, the live video was gone, but the screen-capped moment, the porch, the hands, the look, circulated like contraband. Deleted, reposted, deleted again. Our town isn't cruel on purpose, but gossip is a reflex, and once it starts, It has the strength of a flood. At 1 a.m., I saw a new post on the school page. Just words, white on black. Marin Tigers stand by our values. We are addressing today's incident internally. Please respect privacy as we do so. No names, no details, but everyone knew. Everyone. And me? I lay awake, staring at my ceiling fan, the guilt heavy in my chest. Because I had known before the live. I had known before Rachel's voice cracked the sky. And I had done nothing. Across the street, one light burned in the Whitfield's upstairs window. I imagined Rachel sitting there, angry and shattered. I imagined Madison curled on the bathroom floor. I imagined Carl on the couch, the dog at his feet, staring at nothing, and I thought, the secret is out now. But the real story, the one that will keep unraveling, is only just beginning. By Monday morning, the Whitfield's porch no longer looked like a postcard. The balloons from the raffle still bobbed sadly against the railing, half deflated, like even helium didn't want to stick around. The folding tables leaned abandoned against the fence, tablecloths clinging like wilted skin. Neighbors walked their dogs past slower than usual, pretending not to stare. In small towns, scandals don't echo. They ricochet. By the time I picked up my paper, I'd already heard 2 different versions of what really happened at the Whitfields. In one, Madison had been carrying on a torrid affair for a year, meeting Coach in hotel rooms down by the interstate. In another, the whole thing was an innocent misunderstanding, blown out of proportion by jealous neighbors. Both were wrong. Both were believed. At the coffee shop downtown, the whispers were louder than the espresso machine. Poor Carl, someone sighed. He's such a good man. Another leaned in, lowering her voice like she was about to spill state secrets. I heard the daughter caught them kissing. When I stirred sugar into my cup, June slid into the seat across from me, phone already buzzing with notifications. They've suspended him, she whispered. Coach, officially on leave pending review. She showed me a screenshot of the school's statement. The superintendent's office is spinning it like it's about inappropriate boundaries. But everyone knows. Everyone. And Madison? I asked. She took Rachel out of school today, June said. Couldn't face the stairs. Someone posted a meme of her holding raffle tickets with the caption, 2 for 1 special. Got deleted, but screenshots live forever. She sighed, setting her phone down. This town can love you until it decides you're a lesson. That night, from my kitchen window, I saw Carl loading boxes into the back of his truck. Not suitcases, boxes. Madison stood on the porch, arms folded tight across her chest, face streaked with salt trails even in the dark. They weren't screaming. They weren't fighting. They were too quiet, which is worse. Rachel stood in the doorway behind her, silent, her expression flat with the kind of betrayal that has no tears left. Carl didn't leave that night, though. He came back inside after slamming the tailgate shut. The truck stayed full, like a threat waiting in the driveway. By Wednesday, the story had legs longer than truth. At the hardware store. Did you hear she met him every morning at the track? At the post office. Carl's cousin said it's been going on since Rachel was in middle school. At the library, of all places, someone whispered, it was 2 coaches. Our town multiplies sin the way some people multiply zucchini. More than anyone asked for. Impossible to contain. And through it all, Madison kept showing up. She drove Rachel to school herself, head high even when whispers followed like shadows. She bought groceries at the market, smiled at the cashier, ignored the looks. But when I caught her eyes across the street once, there was no gloss left. Just the hollow look of someone walking through smoke. Friday brought the twist no one saw coming. The school board announced a special meeting about the football program. Coach didn't show. Instead, a letter appeared on the school website. His resignation, citing personal reasons. The rumor mill roared. He'd left town already, some said. Headed back to his parents in Arizona. No goodbye, no closure. Just gone. Like a bad season canceled mid-play. And then came the detail that turned whispers into wildfire. An anonymous post in the town forum claiming Coach had been staying in the Whitfield's guest room after late-night booster meetings. Someone had even uploaded a grainy photo of his maroon SUV parked in their driveway at midnight. Carl didn't deny it. He didn't confirm it either. He just started parking his own car on the street instead of the driveway, as if reclaiming space one tire at a time. By Sunday, the week mark since the fundraiser, the Whitfield's house no longer smelled of barbecue. It smelled of exile. Madison skipped church. Rachel skipped youth group. Carl sat alone in their usual pew, stone-faced while people shook his hand too long. That afternoon, a new sign appeared in their yard. For sale. Bright red. The kind that catches the eye like blood on snow. I stood at my window, staring at it, the weight of everything pressing into my chest. Because here's the truth. I had watched it all unfold from the start. I had seen the comments, the glances, the SUV idling at the curb, and I had done nothing. Nothing but watch. And now the Whitfields were leaving. Coach was gone. Rachel's laughter had been replaced with silence. And Carl, the man everyone pitied, carried his grief like a badge he hadn't asked for. In a bigger city, maybe this would have been a chapter. But here, it was an ending. A whole family pulled out of the soil because one root had strayed. On their last night in town, the Whitfield's porch light stayed on until dawn. I watched it burn, my curtains half closed, the way I had since the beginning. And when the moving trucks came a week later, and the for sale sign tilted in the dirt, I realized something with the clarity of guilt. Secrets don't destroy people here. What destroys them is that in a town this small, there's no place for secrets to hide. And that's how one family's perfect picture shattered under the weight of secrets that couldn't stay hidden. In a small town, every glance, every rumor, every slip leaves a mark. And once the truth is out, there's no putting it back. Remember, sometimes it's not the affair that destroys, but the silence of those who watch. This was Lily. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.